But Lola didn't just show us the world's wonders. She also showed us its horrors. The Nazis had torn through Europe. Paris had fallen, Dunkirk had been evacuated, and now Hitler had set his sights on Britain. The Blitz would claim thousands of lives over the coming months. Lola could no longer be just ours.
Hello, listening people.
Hello.
Hello, Bartek. How are you doing?
Not too bad, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm back here again with you, and it's a bright, sunny day during our cold winter months down here.
And we're in a room with the lights, the blinds down, the soundproofing covering the blinds, and the artificial light is on.
But we do see sunshine a little bit outside.
Yeah, a little bit, like the reflection on two of these windows.
But, we were talking before we recorded about how, hey, these last couple of days have been nice.
Yeah.
Unexpectedly nice. I was... earlier in the week, I was chatting to an American friend, and they were like, "Oh, is it cold down there?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm rugged up. I've got gloves on inside and all that." And they're like, "Oh, jealous because it's stinking hot up there." Like for them, it was like whatever in Fahrenheit, but to translate, it was like 43 degrees Celsius. Okay,
that's
fucking hot.
That is hot.
And they're like, "We're jealous of you," and I'm like, I guess so, yeah. Like, I'm not jealous of that. So.
It's the big experience of like, I follow so many people in the Northern Hemisphere online, and there's always the regional times of the year where it's like, it's the hot times. I hope you're all keeping cool. And I'm like, I'm freezing.
I always think when on our podcast here, where we talk about movies that come recommended, I always think back to when we did The Black Coat's Daughter, and that movie being like, it's set during like Valentine's, and it was snow, and you're like, why is that? And I'm like, it's in America? It was just at this moment where your brain just couldn't process the idea.
It was one of those things where like even in my like viewing before watching the film, like I had that thought of like, the season's all wrong. And then like we brought it up in the episode, I'm like, what was I thinking? And I'm still currently thinking.
Yeah, and I just was like, are you real?
Yeah, it's
I was trying to be so nice, and I was like,
there's half a month left of winter.
Yeah, dude, it's a different hemisphere.
Yeah, it's like
you have family that live in the northern hemisphere. You should know this.
I'm normally aware of it, but just for some reason, that one film
got you.
It got me.
But today, perhaps there's a film that really got you and really got me, because we're here on our show, Pictures Powwow, to discuss a film that has come recommended by somebody, whether it is one of us two hosts or you out there, the listening people. And this time it was on me to recommend a movie, and we've been making it a little challenge for ourselves. We've been having fun these last few years of giving each a little bit of a running theme, and this time it is movies that have been released since our podcast started. So from 2015 right up to today. Mm-hmm. And I've been making sure to make my picks progress with each year, and we are up to a 2022 film selection, and I gave us Lola to check out, a Irish movie, as is discovered when you watch it. But yes, the 2022 film Lola is what we're here to discuss. And if you have not seen this movie, recommend highly that you do. It is a small film. It's a low budget film, but with high ambitions and great technical expertise involved in it. Very, very interesting little movie. Bartek, how would you describe this to somebody if you're trying to get them to watch it?
Sure. This one is a very interesting film. It is part of the found footage genre. Mm-hmm. This film, the footage that you find or have found is from the World War II era. So like early 40s, maybe it starts like the end of the 30s.
Yeah.
But it's during World War II, and it's about these two sisters who have invented a device that can, intercept radio waves. And at first, like, you can get things from the past, but as the most of the film takes place, they have the ability to get radio frequencies from the future. Mm-hmm. And so they're able to hear, audio from the future. So they hear things like, David Bowie and a bunch of other, like contemporary to the latter third of the 20th century musicians. But more pressingly, it's World War II. They can hear things from the very, very, very near future and use that information to make World War II go a bit better.
And they are British, so the context is that these two girls are living through the Blitz, and so they just want to help people survive. They can hear things, and there's more to it. And yes, it's a found footage thing. It's only relatively short as well. It's not a long watch.
Yeah, it's like 75 minutes or something.
Yeah, just
right?
under 80 minutes. But this movie is stylish. It's presented very well, and it's a interesting concept that's executed with absolute precision. This is a film that is very much a what if scenario, and highly recommend that you give it a watch. It's unique, it's different, it's short, and it may be up your alley, but a lot of people have not seen or heard of this movie. To get into my own history and why I recommended this, I saw a review of this, weirdly enough. It was from Mark Kermode, the British film critic. And he reviewed this, and he liked the movie. He genuinely liked it. He thought it was good. But just the idea of this film was really intriguing to me. And what little visuals I saw of it was fascinating. But also I guess on paper, or in my mind, a love for found footage, but I've never actually been huge on it when I actually sit down and watch them. I want to like found footage. I want to like this archival way of telling stories, but I've always been a bit of a distance. There are some I do like, but for the most part, it's a genre within itself of film that I, in theory, gravitate towards, but it just hasn't always landed. And then this premise in itself of these two girls getting these these broadcasts from the future, that's fun. And how are they going to use that for themselves is just a very intriguing science fiction concept. And so I noted this down. I wrote it down. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to check out in the future. I didn't know if we were going to do it for the podcast or not. And then this year, as we're going through ones that have released since, I was looking through 2022, and I must admit it was a bit of a dry year. I mean, we're still reeling from the pandemic times affecting how films were. And this was just floating to the top of the list of like ones to check out. I was like, I don't know how difficult this will be to find. I don't know if Bartek will enjoy this or not. I don't know if it will land. I knew that it had an extremely small budget. This is a first-time feature filmmaker. They've done various shorts, often dealing with this exact concept. Like if you look up this director's short films, a lot of it is like time manipulation or using archival footage for this means to tell this type of story. So it feels like he's been basically gearing up to make this movie, and he's yet to make another follow-up feature film, but I'm eagerly waiting. But yes, that's kind of been my history and a part of why I recommend it. Again, people, if you have not watched it, give it a watch because we're going to get into the details. Wouldn't want to spoil it for you. Bartek, LOLA 2022, tell us a bit about your understanding, history, relationship, all of that jazz.
This was complete blind spot for me. I had never heard of this before. I did the description for the previous episode, Battle of Buster Scruggs, where I have to write in, the name of the next film. I didn't write LOLA with the correct case sensitivity. It's meant to be all capital letters.
Yeah, it depends where you look. Like IMDb has it lowercase, but then Wikipedia has it upper. I don't know.
Oh, I even with the subtitles that I watched this film with, it was the actual LOLA in the film was all capital letters because it's the name of the device that they have. So yeah, complete blind spot. When I was simply looking up like LOLA and I'd write 20, it would like autocorrect like 2019, 2024 version, like American films. Like, no, 2022. And it's like, this is a British-Irish film. It's like, oh, okay, this is, yeah. And I struggled to find it. I was telling Ryan before we started recording that this was the first time I ever used a actual VPN to watch a thing because like none of the other places that I usually go to were working, and the only place I could find it was like the Channel 4 streaming service, which is a big channel in the UK. So I watched it on that site, and it's a short film, but I had to watch it with ads, and some of the ads were very long, and I was very much bombarded with like very British ads. I'm like, ooh, this is a really new experience for me.
And it's a black and white movie, so then you're cutting to ads in color.
Yeah, and like it was one of those things where it's like, oh, there's a minute of ads at the very beginning, and then the film starts, and then there's like every third or quarter of the film more ads. And the first quarter one's like 4.5 minutes of ads.
Remember my experience with I always forget the name. The film you recommended that was about the Israeli and Palestinian
The Other
boys.
Son?
And I had to watch it on SBS Demand, and I had a very similar experience where I'm like watching this stoic drama and then hard cut to like few minutes of ads that won't let me and I was like so angry.
It was so... I literally got up, went to the kitchen to do something, came back, realized I forgot something in the kitchen, went back, got back to my room, sat down, and there was still like a minute left of that. It felt like watching movies on TV again.
Back in the old days of how we used to do it.
Yeah,
now
so...
we don't have to do it that way.
So the 75 minutes kind of evened out to like maybe around an 85.
Nice.
But yeah, I was completely blind on this one, but you know, in trying to find this film, I kept seeing like the first sentence of the premise. I'm like, that actually sounds pretty interesting. When I saw that this was found footage, I got very interested as well. Kind of like you, I have a soft spot for found footage, and it's worked for me more often than not. I remember when the Paranormal Activity films were coming out, I'm like, oh, those are really fun. I really like them. I saw all 4. But those were always films that people were like, oh, this is boring. You're just waiting for like little things in the frame to happen. I'm like, oh, but I kind of had fun with that. It was fun theater experience. And even
interesting. I never knew that you had a soft spot for those.
Yeah,
but just talk about them.
Just at the time, I've never watched any of like the ones that don't have a number in them. Yeah, and I remember there was that film Chronicle. That was fun. And I guess we've also covered a couple of films like End of Watch.
I was going to say End of Watch.
The police cam footage.
Body cam
footage and similar things like that where, you know, from a camera's perspective, not necessarily found footage like One Cut of the Dead. So yeah, I was interested in seeing this one and I quite liked it. Yeah, it had a lot of fun, like anachronism that was justified. Like I mentioned before, like, you know, the contemporary in quotes musicians, like these are the 2 girls in the 40s and like they're being shaped by like Bob Dylan and David Bowie and things like that, and they have you know, they do strange things like, oh, you know, we pee standing up and we use lingo that cool lingo from that doesn't fit in the 1940s. There were 1 or 2 times where they said something like, oh, that's normal. Like, wait, not in this time period. So the film's very cheeky, but they even do like the Back to the Future thing of singing a contemporary song and being like, you're not going to hear it in another long while.
And then but unlike Back to the Future, it actually has major consequences.
Yeah. And it's, you know, when you think of like, this isn't a time travel film, but films that play around with time.
Yeah, it's a time paradox film.
Yeah, it's usually like the future/present doing things to the past and then, you know, the consequences of that. Whereas this one is the exact opposite. It's the past looking into the future and trying to change the course of history. So you never have like the time paradox thing of like, oh no, you've changed the past. Now this is happening. It's, you know, shaping the way forward.
And also the future that they're seeing is our history.
Yes.
It's not they're seeing the future where the Nazis took over and they must avert it. Like, we know that's wrong. We eventually get to that point, but that's because the characters themselves have fucked it up.
Yeah. So it's a very, very fun inversion of like the concept. And again, it's not 100% like this, but it was reminding me a lot of Steins Gate, where Steins Gate, the Japanese series, kind of deals with similar things, like affecting time from the present without necessarily too much like travel stuff.
Yes, I loved this. Absolutely adored this. I'm genuinely smitten. There's this moment in the movie where you're like, okay, I think I know how this is going to go. This is going to be the case where the sisters are going to now be ideologically opposed to how they use this device that's named after their mother. Again, lots of symbolism had in the movie too when it comes to family relationships.
Yeah, the sisters are Tom and Mars.
Yes, and they obviously are going to strike up a different viewpoint. Like, one is the cold-hearted needs of the many outweigh, you know, needs of the one, all that.
Yeah, utilitarian.
And the other is a dreamer, the artist, the free spirit, the one who looks at the world and thinks one day we could be happy, and they are going to lock horns.
When she finds out the simple fact that, like, oh, we've deleted David Bowie's legacy, like, that's a problem, even though we've saved people.
Yeah, and that's you get the feeling early on, okay, we're going to work towards that type of story, but then we keep going, and there's this fun alt history play here, and you know, we've often seen the man in the high castle type story of what happens if the Nazis or the Axis won the war. What would things look like from there on out? And there's a beautiful piece where we mention that David Bowie is a key figure in this. You know it's a big deal because David Bowie's estate signed off and gave them actual music to use, which is not common, especially after his death. They are a lot more choosy with projects that use his songs, like the David Bowie biofilm that his family didn't authorize, weren't allowed to use any of his songs. So that's kind of something to chew on there. But so this movie that has a micro budget got access to his music and his images because there's something here. And one of the most genius strokes of it is the reveal that David Bowie no longer exists in the future. We don't know what happened to him. He could have died. He could have been erased entirely. He could have just been a dentist. It doesn't matter.
That was the line that said he had a different childhood. Maybe he became a dentist. And
there's this other pop singer on the screen, and he's much more dorky and much less cool.
Yeah, it's like Raymond Winston or something.
And he sounds like David Bowie, and his music sounds like, David Bowie, but it's not quite. And you're not really paying attention to what he's saying or what he's singing about, but you kind of know, oh, this isn't right. And then that becomes like the poison in the well that goes on for the rest of the movie, because the more we get into it, the more we get to learn what he was singing about the whole time and how they told you very early on how badly these sisters fucked everything up. And that they could have, if they paid attention to his song, realized this isn't going to go the way we want it. But no.
Yeah, he's singing about like war tangential things.
Yeah,
like,
he's singing about marching in line.
Yeah, boot camps and stuff like that. And it's like, oh, that, that doesn't sound like, dreamy.
But he has that British pop 60s, 70s sound to it.
And
so it sounds like, okay.
Sorry, Reginald Watson.
Yeah, who the fuck is Reginald Watson?
Yeah. And you eventually do get like a music video of his later on.
We get to see his origin story.
Yeah, and it's a really effective, like, oh, this, tonally and, rhythm wise, like it fits as one of these kinds of songs, but then you just listen to the lyrics and it's like, ooh, you're mixing in very sinister things. And I knew that, you're a little bit of a fan of David Bowie. So
yeah, I like the bow.
You've got a bit of an ear for his style. So I was wondering like, oh, if this evokes it very clearly, then Ryan will probably really appreciate this.
Yeah.
And did it?
Oh, of course.
There you go then, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that they're riffing on, Space Oddity Major Tom, but then some of his other songs are like real deep cut Bowie hits that they're emulating and riffing on with this guy. Like the one about the gallows is very much Berlin era David Bowie. Like David Bowie went to Berlin and he made a few albums there, and they're very dark, sinister albums, but then some of them have hit songs like Heroes is from the Berlin era, and that's a big song. And that album is like very German and depressing, and then there's even Low, where one of the songs on there is called Warsaw, and he's this Polish and German singing in it mixed together in a very ominous, upsetting way. That song sounds like what you imagine 1940s Poland would be. Like, it's just very upsetting song. And so you already have that with David Bowie in the real world. So, but that's like him artistically exploring things. Now let's just use that, but for this guy who's actually a part of the fascist regime of Britain. Excellent.
And I really like that, like, kind of the last thing you see relating to this character is like him as a kid in the modern day, like on this up and coming voice of the future, Reginald Watson.
As is like a Nazi youth.
Yeah. It was reminding me, and I watched it after of like the song in Cabaret, where it's the Tomorrow Belongs to Me. It's like this young man, like, oh, look at this nice young man, like, oh, pan down to his like Nazi armband. Then he ends it by, doing the Nazi salute.
So the musician who did those David Bowie riff songs and things like that, he is a part of the musical act, The Divine Comedy. He did the theme music for Father Ted and IT Crowd, and he did the song Thanks for All the Fish from The Hitchhiker's Guide.
Okay.
So he has a background in these comedic big songs, and to get him to do something like this is again another mark of like, oh, you guys are really going in. And this movie, small budget, has all of these constraints, but it knows exactly how to use those things. Like, you read the details of like, oh, they got these proper cameras that have this certain film footage and this certain stuff, and they just handed them to the actual actors to film the scenes with. and it adds an authenticity, even though, like, yeah, we're mixing these current day actors with footage of Hitler and the Germans and whatnot, but there's so much attention to detail and care because it's deeply aware of its limitations. And that's why sometimes when you tell a person, oh, this movie is like a small budget, a low budget, or a micro budget film, it can turn someone off because that in your mind says low quality.
There's a part in the last third of the film where Mars, who was our main character for that part of the film, is telling this kid how to like properly use the camera, and she's like, "Look, when I'm talking, aim it at my face. When I'm clearly doing something with my hands, move it down there." And then like giving him all these like directions of like, "Oh, when you notice this happening, go there." And you think back on how the film was up to this point. It's like, "Oh yeah, those are the camera using techniques that they were using the whole way through." It was like a real nice little moment of like explaining the filmmaking in a natural, diegetic way.
With any science fiction concept, there's different ways you can explore them. You can go big and grand. You can go to this huge degree, especially with time travel, with paradoxes, the butterfly effect. You can go huge with it. You can really go big. But sometimes less is more, and the smaller the idea allows you to get the audience in on those big ideas as you ramp up. So the simple concept of these two girls in 1940s England hearing David Bowie and Bob Dylan and seeing the moon landing is a fun notion. And you're like, okay, that's interesting. That's cool. And then, let's sprout that a little more and say, oh, what would they do with this information? Oh, well, I enjoyed the music and the art, and they get hope from it. And one of them starts to learn the music for themselves, and the other one starts to listen to the politics of the times. And then it starts to sprout a little bit more. Okay, they're not going to stand idly by and watch their world get torn apart, even though they know the world's going to resolve this conflict. So they're going to warn people, just in little ways, though. They're going to be careful. Every time travel story has this thing where, like, hey, we'll use it the right way. We'll do it carefully. It will be fine. A lot of them do. And you really root for them because you understand the conflict. We know World War II, but we also know England at this time was just getting bombed and people just dying left and right. Often they didn't have the means to warn people. So these two girls have this information of the future, and they are using a very clever means of telling people, which then gets them found out because it's such a clever means that the army are like, you are very clever, too clever. You must have something of note.
That first bit of the film like does a really good job of being like, hey, what if we do this? And you see the immediate consequences. Like, oh, there's going to be 2 specific bombings the next day at these specific times. Let's go on pirate radio. Just simply announce that there are going to be bombings there. And then you get like, them recording the news footage of people being like, we lost everything, but we're still alive thanks to those, radio broadcasts. And it's like, hey, look, we did a good thing. We saved lives. And then you get like the military response where like there's the one guy who's like, yeah, we've noticed this and we're looking into it. And then the second military guy who's like, we're going to stop them. Mm-hmm. And then, there's a bit of a plot going on where it's like, oh, the military are investigating them. They're trying to track them down. And you're like, oh, this is going to be the whole film. But like, nope. No. They catch them like very, very quickly. And in a way where their process is like meticulously described as like, yeah, we got lucky here. And then the dominoes just fell into place.
And that's how the film successfully manages to keep raising the stakes, building it up, and making this very neat little idea more complicated, because it must be more complicated, not only because we're watching a narrative feature, but you can't hand anyone this level of power without them feeling the need to be responsible with it. And what does being responsible with it look like depends on the people and the institutions at hand, and then being careless and reckless and so on. But I really like even the little touch of they're saving these lives. It's like a few dozen lives or like 100 lives, this. And the military don't know how they're getting these radio broadcasts out there without being able to detect them. And we're thinking as an audience, well, they've invented a device. Maybe they've invented some other thing. No. One of them has figured out, like, if you go to this one like place in you know, in the countryside or whatever, and you hook up your radio things, it goes to all like the gas lines, and so the radio broadcasts will like reverberate through certain people's gas lines, and some people hear and some won't, and they won't be able to track us.
The way to describe it is that like when they use the transmitter, if you're aiming it in the right direction, it'll ping and say like, yeah, they're in this direction. But the way that they've worked out that like they can use the entire gas system of the country to transmit their radio wave. So if that transmitter is aiming towards any direction where there is gas, it's going to go off.
Yeah, and so it's everywhere.
So it masks like, where they could be. And then one of the guys thinks like, oh, well, if it's got something to do with the gas, let's go to like the gas, like not factory, but like the plant where like all of the gas comes from. And yeah, they just happen to see one of them doing something there and follow her home.
I loved how, with this being a found footage, you always have to in your found footage have the justification why things are being filmed and how the presentation exists. And one of the ways that they make this very lively and fun is changing the perspective. Like, now here's the military's point of view. Here are the news broadcast, like here are the newsreels, here are the radio interviews, here this sprinkled in. But at the end of the day, we are always aware that this is Mars. This is her film, and she's giving this to Tom. So you're wondering like what their relationship is from the very beginning, because you know it's no longer as wholesome and connected as it is in the beginning of the movie. But the movie is so elegant when it comes to enticing you with seeing the snowball effect, the butterfly effect itself as well, but the snowballing of how one thing leads to another, that you almost don't question like, what is the purpose of this found footage movie we are watching? And then when the movie gets to it at the end, you're like, well, of course. Makes sense, of course. Like, oh, that adds up.
Yeah, even something as simple as like, the reason why you were kind of explaining it, but the reason why we are now watching the personal recording logs of like the sympathetic military guy, like giving his like, update report. I'm now looking at the gas factory, whatever. You're like, oh, why is this in this film that's clearly like made by one of the girls? And it's like, oh, well, he becomes the love interest of one of them. So down the line, of course, she would have access to this and she can use it in her compiled, what this film is.
Yeah, it's so just well crafted, and it's short, it's sweet, but it packs so much in there. Like, when it just comes to the character stuff, I felt really connected to these characters. I thought that these two sisters were well realized, well performed, and the backstory we get on them is like so well told. Like, they sprinkle in just enough at the right points where you understand how difficult this life has been for them and how much they take from their parents and what each one of them interprets from what their parents said about this thing. Like the father, the way that they talk about their father is very different depending which one is talking about him, and how they live their life from what they thought their father would have wanted is drastically different for each sister. Yet when they're together and they actually talk about their father, you can see how these two different versions of the man become one guy. And that's just so true. Like, that happens with families all the time. Like, a few weeks back, I was at Bartek's place and we were chatting with your brother, and it's just so funny how you and your brother talking about like
mum's boyfriend thing.
Your mum and how she has a boyfriend, and you're like, yeah, my mum's boyfriend, and your brother's like, I don't like that. I don't like that we're calling him the boyfriend. It's like, what do you want? And just
call him partner.
And just different little perspectives on your family history or your relationships and da da da. And that happens with everyone. But I thought this movie did that so well, and in lesser hands, this could have just been left as like a concept movie, but they know exactly when to dial in to the character material here, especially between these two sisters, who, as we get further along, the more, arched they become, but it works because they felt grounded at the beginning, even though they're still extraordinary characters, nonetheless.
Yeah, and maybe if I watched it again, I'll change this, but like I took a lot of what they were saying about their father at like face value, like, oh yeah, he was this great man who had all these sayings and like taught them all these lessons. But then it comes a point where they talk about like, yeah, he was drafted into the military and he like barely lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And, you know, he died and we were like still really little kids. So it's like a lot of what they're saying about their father is like projections and like hypotheticals.
And what
like,
their mum said.
Yeah, and what their mum said. So it's like they didn't truly know their father. They just, you know, they're projecting ideals onto him and attributing them to him.
A film, just discussing that idea, a film that comes to my mind very much so is Pink Floyd's The Wall, where that very much is a part of that film's story as well, and like dealing with the father who never came back from the war, and like being old enough but too young to really know who that man was, and like them being taken away and them having these ideals that conflict against this, but nonetheless they go and they never come back. Yeah, like this film, you know, has a limited amount of resources in terms of like what these characters can pull from the future, like what pop culture stuff they can do. Like, yeah, they get David Bowie and they get Ray Davies, and that's basically about it. But there's so much to how the film is grappling with these concepts that you intuitively can be like, yeah, the film also feels like it's riffing on Pink Floyd and da-da-da, even though it's not directly. But it just gets the gist of that future that these characters are hoping we can get to, whilst also being naively unaware that the horrible present that they're in is necessary for that future that they want.
Yeah. It's also really fun that, you know, their frame of references are kind of equal to like a modern, like, you know, hipstery kind of character. It's like, I'm into the old stuff, but it's like, no, I'm into the ultra new doesn't exist yet stuff. Like even when the love interest guy is like, oh, she kept giving us pseudonyms like Eartha Kitt and something Stardust. And it's like, oh, these are all people that don't exist yet, because like these are references that they like.
And with this weird time distortion effect, there's even this beautiful scene where Mars is singing a song about tomorrow, and it's like, he just sits there. We just get this whole song. She's on the guitar. It's shot beautifully. It's very intimate. And then the love interest guy goes, oh, so who's that then? Is that Bob Dylan? And it's just guessing. And she's like, no, that's me, actually. I did that. And it's just such a weird moment, because you yourself in the movie, you're in the movie going, oh, so which musician is this?
Yeah.
And then, no, this is just a genuine thing from her experiences. But because she's out of sync with the time in a way, it doesn't feel real, yet this is the real artistic expression from herself that's been influenced by things that haven't happened yet, and technically haven't happened now because of what they've done. Yeah, very interesting. So let's focus in on these characters. Let's talk about these sisters a bit more. How did you feel about these sisters? What stood out to you about them? What did you lean towards with them as the film went on?
No, I liked them. It took me a bit to get the names down. Tom is the more stern one. Like, she reminds me a lot of like the Metal Gear Dr. Strangelove character.
Oh, okay.
She's very dry, and the younger sister Mars, like you said, a bit more of a dreamer character, and it's fun to see them like bounce off of each other, but still be like, you know, on the same page at first, like what they're doing. And you get all these like little moments where like they're in the bathtub together, recording each other, having a bit of a chat.
Riding the horse inside because there's no adult to tell them no. That was fun detail.
Yeah, and like having their little discussions about like what they think the military is like up to with them. It's like, I'm gonna seduce him, and then we'll have our way with like this whole situation.
Yeah. They're playing songs together. Like, one of them is the tech genius and the other one is the more artist out of them. I mean, it's obvious visual cues as well. Like the more militant scientist, pragmatic one is short haircut, very much dresses like a man, black hair. The other one is very feminine, has blonde hair. Like, these are obvious things, but it still is very effective, especially with the visual language that we're getting, where the aspect ratio is very, very, locked in. You're very confined. It's in black and white. There's all this grain everywhere. So the film has to do certain things to express information and emotions to the audience visually in very obvious ways, but still nonetheless effective because of all of these hurdles the film has put upon itself. So you can just look at these two sisters and go, oh, I know what the dynamic is.
One of them looks and feels a bit more like, oh, she'd be in like a spy espionage film. And the other one looks like, she could play like Marilyn Monroe in like a romantic comedy like Bus Stop or something.
Oh, yes. One of them, yes, Tom looks like she's Marlene Dietrich in the movie we covered with her. And the other one feels like, yes, the Marilyn Monroe, but they're both very intelligent, fun characters. I like Tom. She was great. That actress, fantastic. I mean, all the actors very good, but that actress is fantastic. Like the way that she carries herself, she very much has these huge expressive eyes that get just more manic and upsetting as we get further into the movie.
Yeah, and after like the turning point where like, in the last act they're not together, the only times we see of Tom is like when it's a recording of a recording, her on a TV show, and like we have to guess, like, what has she been through now? Like, is she a Nazi sympathizer now? Like, does she actually still have the altruistic values that she had from the beginning? And, our main girl, Mars, she's gone, less like dreamery and more like, how do I salvage this situation? Like, I'm in hiding now. People think I'm dead. Can I still get back together with my sister?
And those performances just give you so much. Like with the actress of Mars, like she's very warm and she's falling in love, but I really like too with the writing, but also how it's played. She isn't naive, she isn't dumb, she isn't oblivious the way that Tom says she is. She is reasonable, she is the intelligent one, she's the emotionally intelligent one. And she understands, even though she may not have understood right away that their actions are impacting the future, once she does, she understands the horrifying existential quandary of it, while Tom is just dismissive. She's like, hey, this is what it is. Like, we have saved these lives. That matters more than, the art of the future. I'm not thinking about any like long-term metaphysical things, even though I'm the scientist and that should be something I think of. I'm thinking more militant now. And Mars is immediately like, oh no, this is bad. But both of them are still oblivious to the level of bad that it is. That they're just so tuned. For people who like, I love tuning into the future, there comes a point where they don't want to tune into the future for different reasons. Like one of them's like, I just need to know this one thing from the future and that's it. And the other one is just so horrified that David Bowie doesn't exist that they just don't want to look at it anymore.
Yeah, and eventually, it stops being as simple as like, hey, give this information and the good people won't die. You get to the point where it's like, well, if we sacrifice these, was it like 2,000 or 20,000?
Yeah, 2,000.
Yeah. If we sacrifice these 2,000 people on our side, we can take down the entire like bomber squadron.
Yeah, the U-boats.
U-boats. That's not the
the subs
U-boats.
and all of that.
Yeah, it's like they're in hiding. Well, bring them out by sacrificing some of them.
And when you say their people, not even their own people, Americans.
That's what I meant. Like their allies.
Yeah. They're allies, without permission, without anything. That like, you're getting more amoral.
Yeah,
good.
And you get, again, the film is very good about showing the consequences because it establishes like, America knows that they have some sort of like clairvoyant system, so it must be the case that they knew what would happen. Therefore, you guys sacrificed 2,000 of our people. Our alliance is over.
I absolutely adore that. Because they have this clairvoyant future premonition technology and the Americans are aware. Everyone's aware of it in some way, but they don't fully know.
Yeah, they don't have the details.
And the Germans absolutely fuck them up by just using old school methods. That's my favorite detail of the movie when it comes to like the technical little weird things is, they just tricked us by using a very old school way that we would have seen through immediately previously, but we've become so dependent on this technology and we've never questioned its weaknesses and that we never thought that they could fumble, like they could get us like this, and they did, and we were just too cocky.
They even exposit that like, they don't know what we have. They just like took a shot in the dark and it absolutely worked.
Yeah, and that's the thing about war. That's the thing about life. Like, there are these instances where the tides change just like that because of some small incidental thing or just some blind shot in the dark.
Yeah.
And Tom is just oblivious to that because she's like, well, I have the future in my hands. I can dictate how everything goes. And we've seen, so many shows, movies, pieces of work where characters who have that like omniscient God force ability don't understand that there's still blinders to that.
They even have a line earlier in this film where they're like, look, if we go too hard on this, they're going to catch on really, really quick. Like if we foil like 100% of absolutely everything, like they're going to know something's up. So we have to be a bit more subtle about it.
Yeah, if we give, and at that early stage, they were like, if we give them too much, too big, not only will the Germans find out, but they will think that we are Nazis because we're giving them information that's too good.
Foreshadowing.
Yes, foreshadowing.
Yeah. Not that they are Nazis, but because that's like, when
that's
something goes wrong, hey, what's an easy way to, have a scapegoat? Well, we have two women that were doing everything for us. They were Nazis. Hang them.
Yeah. And one of the undercurrents that's not ham-fisted, or at least I didn't feel as ham-fisted, but the sexism of the times is very much prevalent in this as well. These are the genius women who are in charge of it all, but this higher militant man is getting all of the accolades and the praise and the attention because that's how it works, that's how the system works. But as soon as it fails one time, they're the ones behind it. These are the ones that are responsible. Hang them. I didn't do anything wrong. It's them. And that sounds obvious when you say it like that, but the way that the movie is going through it, or the way the movie is propelling itself forward, the sexism angle of the time isn't treated as like the movie's about sexism, but like that gender dynamic is just inherent to the time, to the point where you don't even really question it too much, even though it is being questioned.
It's still, but it still felt like betrayal because, at first he was the guy, that character was the guy that, on TV, idealistic guy is like, it's like, we will stop them. And like, he's the one that's like, we got to take them down. And at first when he's brought into things, like, is this a joke? And he's like, talking down to them. As soon as like good things start happening, he's like, give them the wine you have. They deserve it, not you. And he's all about them. And then, things go wrong and he's immediately shoots them down.
But he's taking credit for their stuff. And there's the parties about him. And was it little things like that?
And later on in the film, by the way, everyone, the spoilers are off. We already spoiled things, but just letting you know, spoilers are off. The Nazis take over England. The old English government and leadership is called the old regime, things like that.
Yeah. Great detail.
And there's a shot later on
of the new prime minister.
I can't remember if it was the prime minister, but there was a guy that was like clearly like a British guy, like doing like a very Hitler-esque speech. And was that the guy?
Yeah, that's the guy. He became the new prime minister.
Yeah. Oh, the military guy.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
I wasn't 100% sure. I'm like, if that's the same guy, this is a really good, development. Well, like this British guy who's like trying to win the war and like uses them, and now he's like the Hitler equivalent.
It's so insane.
He's like not even a character. He's just some guy on a screen giving a speech.
It's so insane because when I was watching it, there's so many other points of reference I was making, musically speaking, film-wise, just time travel stories. But that there again makes me think of Pink Floyd's The Wall, where you get the whole sequence where he sees himself as this neo-Nazi given this speech. And it's the blending of obvious German iconography and Third Reich era stuff with contemporary British culture. And even in this movie with that guy, like he's clearly a Nazi, but he has the British mustache and he's saying things in his eloquent British voice. And it's just like the perversion of the two things clashing. And I wasn't thinking about that movie, but now we're here talking and I'm like, that Pink Floyd's Wall keeps popping up in my mind as something that just is bubbling away here. And I kind of love being able to talk about this movie and just have these things. And I got a thrill, as I think many people do, when you have an alt history story where you have the moments where you go, oh, this is where they fucked up. And then just the cavalcade of, oh no, this thing has happened. And me being the sicko I am, I'm rubbing my hands together and I'm looking at my wife going, ho, they really fucked this up. As you see like the Nazis like shooting Big Ben and planting their flags in. I'm like, ho. And then we get more of the evil Nazi Britpop music play, and I'm just like clapping. I'm going,
British people like starting to really like Hitler.
Yeah.
Like, Hitler's come down. He's going to give the flowers from the little British girl.
Yeah, or we finally got the senile Winston Churchill. I'm like,
Yeah.
I started to get that, that nerdy sci-fi fist pump when it was like, Roosevelt responds to the sacrifice of the Americans, and Winston Churchill being this amoral monster, and then Churchill just doubling down like, I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like,
every time you see Churchill, it's always that one photo of him smiling in a crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also like hits you with the reality of like, it's not about quantity, it's about quality, because it's like all of these British victories, like they stopped every war, they stopped everything, they shot down 2,000 of these, 1,000 of these, blah, 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 blah. One fuck up. All it took to have, the German regime over England. It's not about the amount, it's about like the quality of the victory.
Whether it is historically true or not, we always talk about, when it comes to World War II, with that sentiment, the French. And how easily the French got taken over once they made, I don't know the intricacies of it all, but like, just general layman stuff, like the idea like the French had this specific defensive line that was very out of date, and then the Germans just went past it and then just took over relatively quickly.
Yeah, the joke is that like French and surrender are synonymous.
Yes, and
the cheese-eating surrender
and the fact that people can make the statement of like the Polish didn't even know they were going to get invaded and and they had more of a fight than the French did, and they knew. Like, whether that's true or not, that's not the case. But like, this film takes that notion and really runs with it. Like, you were arrogant and you thought you had this in charge, but then one fuck up and they get behind your lines and now you are Nazi. And it's like, uh-oh.
You even get the shot of like when they're realizing they fucked up, they just run out of the house and all of these planes flying over their home.
Terrifying image.
Yeah.
The use of historical and archived footage and mixing it together with them in it, but also just intersplicing it into the found footage movie, I thought was really well done. Like, I've seen higher budgeted movies try to blend in modern characters into historical footage, and it just doesn't look right. And I thought this movie looked pretty decent with it, especially because you're using the black and white and the grainy footage effect. And they on purposely choose like different levels of degraded footage just to cut in and out, and I think that helped it.
The really early when like they stopped people dying in the bombing, like they had very, very grainy footage that looked pretty real.
Yeah, and then when you use all these different footages of Hitler to give this idea that he's visiting their house and seeing the device.
I wasn't 100% sure if it was like actual footage or if it was an actor, but
I think they did a mixture of it all.
Yeah.
I think they did a mixture of it all, and it worked. Like, there will be some moments where it's like, here's a shot of Hitler and it's a nice clean shot, and then here's another shot of Hitler at a different angle and it's like a really degraded piece of footage. But the fact that like then they degrade other pieces with our actual characters in there without Hitler kind of gave it a sense of continuity. While I feel like a lot of films kind of fumble what Forrest Gump understood how to do. Like, Forrest Gump, for instance, is like one of those big, technical marvels of a movie of like, here's Tom Hanks being digitally inserted into all these historical moments.
Yeah, meeting LBJ.
And maybe today it doesn't look 100% real, but it's still very effective. While sometimes we see movies nowadays and they somehow don't look as good as Forrest Gump. And this movie, again, it has all of these technical things on top of itself, like the style of the movie, all of this stuff. And what it does is just make it gel well with these archived footage things. Like, those CGI, airplanes flying over their house didn't look cheap or hokey or whatever, because you have all this film grain and this black and white and these blown out whites from the sky. It really obscures everything. This is the ultimate example of how in modern blockbuster cinema, like, everything's gray and dark and brown and blue because it helps hide the limitations of the effects. And you just go, yeah, but Batman v Superman looked ugly as sin.
You know what?
And this is a movie where it's like, it has those things, but it actually is using it for a purpose, and it actually looks good.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, the fact that like in found footage and horror films, like one of the Batman v Superman's not either of those things.
No.
But
It's a horrible film.
Yeah, there was a joke in there somewhere, and I guess that's it. But yeah, in these kinds of films, like one of the big problems is like I can't fucking see anything, and this is a black and white found footage film that's meant to be set in the 1940s, and so the quality sometimes pays respect to that. And I didn't have really any moments of like, I don't know what's happening.
It's well lit.
Yeah. It's actually well lit and well shot.
There's these amazing scenes where we cut a little bit into the future now, and Mars is she's filming from the car, and you see the cars pulling, and it's at night. So all you have is like this black void, little bit of light showing trees, and then just the, her now, lover, him driving the car, and it looks like he's in a void. And then you see they pull up, and there are these two Nazis, and you're just like, ooh, this is so upsetting. And it's just a scene where it's basically like a black void, and it's like you're in a car, you know what's going on, but like with the found footage nature, it elevates how terrifying that scene is, where the Nazis are just saying in the most robotic toned voice you could give them,
"May I see your papers?"
Yeah, and just telling them that they have to go back. And they most of the time they just speak German at them and expect the main characters to just get it.
For the most part, they are speaking English, but there's a part where they just switch to German and it becomes menacing. Yeah,
yeah, it's very, and then just the slow raising up of the rifle and cocking the rifle, and just like, okay, we need to leave, and we just have this elongated shot of them reversing. And again, visually, you're not seeing a lot, but what you are seeing gives you the chaos, gives you the mania, gives you the upsetting tension.
Yeah, nothing actually happens in that scene, but the way it's presented and, your context of like what all this means, it is very unnerving.
Yeah, was there anything else about Lola that you want to discuss, mention, talk about?
Honestly, this is one where I'd have to watch it again to like really, take it all in. It's all I can say now is that, I've watched it the one time and I really liked it.
The turn of Tom going from I must destroy the Nazis at all costs to the foolish notion of maybe I can work with them. Maybe if I just use my intellect and their resources, it will be fine. And I like that off screen, we see that journey happen, and off screen, we kind of really understand that she knows that that's bullshit. Like, we're focused on Mars's perspective, but we can just tell from how that actress holds herself as Tom, like the way that her hair is slicked and her code switching, like her accent is different when she's under the Nazi occupation to when we last saw her. And then obviously in the final moments of the movie, like the setup of the car thing and the payoff of it's really funny. Like at the beginning of the movie, it's like, oh yes, I got you that car. Remember that car? How funny that is. To later, it's like, thank goodness I got you that car.
It was one of the things where I did not remember that setup, but there was that line there. It's like, oh, if I watch this film again, like I'll really get it.
And it was very funny because you have the haunting, but very humorous, but haunting song, The Gallows, playing, and then it hard cuts to, thank goodness I got you that car, and then the car like gingerly hits a Nazi, like because it's one of those rinky-dink little old cars, it just gingerly hits him. Very funny, very humorous, even though that's an upsetting scene, very upsetting, but also badass. Like that's one of those ones where it's so absurd, where they're like hanging Mars and then she grabs out a pistol and starts shooting them as she's spinning around.
Yeah, she's being hanged. She's got one arm around the noose, like trying to loosen it, and also with the other arm shooting
and kicking people.
And you as the audience member, like, oh, shoot the guy holding the rope, then you'll fall down.
But she's spinning.
Yeah, but you can't. It reminding me of Buster Scruggs. That's the James Franco section where the guy is trying to shoot down his noose, like, stop moving.
That was an amazing sequence. But yeah, Tom realizing, but too late realizing the error of her ways, thinking like, I like the line of, she said, I don't know where I went wrong, but I think it was long ago. And my wife just turned over and went, yes, it was. Like, yes, it was.
Rachel's smart.
Oh, yes. Yeah, so what did you feel about the overall purpose of this found footage film? Because we do get at the end, like, the reason why this film has been made by Mars.
She's hoping that, her sister in the past will intercept, this entire project that's been edited together and hopefully make a decision to change the course of history. So in a way, actually changing the past.
Mm-hmm. And basically destroy their timeline, destroy the awful Nazi takeover of England, but also the discovery of all of this amazing art from the future, and for Mars sacrificing the love that she's found with this British officer. But she's willing to make that sacrifice, willing to make this movie because it's more important than her own desires, which is something that Tom failed to understand during the movie. Like, Tom may say she's doing this for the greater good, but you can tell it's for her own ego after a certain point. It's for her own satisfaction. Like, I like with Tom on the Nazi UK TV talk show bit where she's like explaining why the British and Nazi officers could never figure out how LOLA works because they're not imaginative enough, and she just starts rambling, and you can tell it's like she's just so like vain and just being like, I've figured it out, but whatever.
She has a line about how they're like, detailed experiences with education and science like were the things holding them back from catching her.
Yeah. So yeah, the movie, it's a time loop that eventually breaks itself and stops itself from happening. And with any time travel-y thing, you can pick holes through it and any which way you want and say, how does this work? How does that work? And I'm not saying that isn't valid, but I think the heart of the movie and just the simple nature of it that then becomes more complex, and this being a very good example of following an idea, it does not waste its potential. The absolute giddy joy I had as the film got more and more insane with the level of old history and, Man in the High Castle type shenanigans with Nazi England. I had such a big grin because I wasn't expecting that level. I knew it was like two girls with this device and they start to help the army, but I didn't know. And if I did, I wasn't maybe expecting it the way it was delivered to me in the movie, where there's this knowing sense of dread and terror about it, but there is a level of the movie knows this is fun. Like, hence you get the David Bowie.
I was going to say,
songs.
like, it plays it very genuine, but then the song is very ham-fisted, and it's just, it gives you that sense of, jarringness where, the two things are happening at the same time, but also that, like, dreadful thought of, like, oh, man, I guess they just don't really have any reason to need to hide, the plain truth. They can just sing. Like, the lyrics literally say, like, if your friends don't respect the regime, call the police on them.
If they don't sing the song, call the police.
Yeah, like the lyrics I said there were wrong, but it's, like, basically that level of, like, dialogue.
Yeah, because, and again, too, the thing is, the propaganda of the times, whether from the Nazis or the Americans or the British, wasn't subtle. Hence, you can get the "you really got me" scene and make it now a British propaganda piece. I like that whole sequence where they're singing and they're doing the song and they just think it's this for this private event. They're doing the Back to the Future thing, but then it becomes the rallying cry of the nation, and you see the slogans all over these.
We really got you, Hitler.
Yeah, I see the slogans all over these buildings and buses, and that's like really one of the first moments of the movie where you're like, oh no, they're really fucking the timeline. Like, you already have obvious things like they're stopping these people dying and they're intercepting these Germans in this way, but that moment is like, oh, and then it just gets more and more. When I look back, I revisited that Mark Commode review, and I think it summed it up beautifully. He said, oh yes, and at this point, they erased David Bowie, and Simon Mayo, the other host of the thing, just said in a very flat undertoned voice, just said, well, that's a mistake. Yeah. And I'm like, that's the movie.
I figured he'd say something like that.
That's the movie where it's like, if you erase David Bowie, that's a mistake. That's a big mistake. And then I read some reviews that people said, hey, have you ever thought about how when David Bowie died in 2016, everything went really badly for our timeline?
Because he was one of the first ones.
He was one of the first.
In the year of celebrities dying.
Yeah, it was like in February, I'm pretty sure.
I think we recorded that episode in January.
Oh, maybe January, yeah.
Like within the first 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So crazy. And then 2016 was 2016.
Yeah.
I just want to a reference, I won't get into it, but there's a horrible Letterboxd review that it makes me so angry, where it's a fairly positive review, but there's this sentiment that I absolutely loathe, where it talks about how the movie's central premise is fascinating, but it doesn't really add up, because they never really explain how the device gets things from the future. They have some hokum line about quantum mechanics. I'm like, because it's not real. Like, we can't do that.
Yeah, it's science fiction.
And the thing is, the movie immediately starts with them having Lola, the device. It's not like, oh, we spend the first half hour building it and discovering it. Like, in 5 minutes, you are like, hey, here's the premise.
Yeah, they basically...
And the premise is, now can we do with this device that exists?
Yeah, I can't remember how they said it at the beginning, but it's like they're getting things from the past and like, well, if we can do that, what's stopping us from getting it from the future? And that's all you really get.
That's all you need to know. Sometimes with science fiction, some people get really hung up on those type, like, they didn't explain, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, what's the story here?
Yeah. A few minutes ago, you mentioned the phrase time loop, and that is something that you can think about, like, right at the end of the film when you find out the point. But, like, that's not a factor for, like, the entirety of the film up to that point. It's literally changing the present. You're not changing the past. So it's like, hey, it's all fair game, really.
It's all fair game, really. No, this was a delight. Highly recommend the movie. I would love to see more from this team of people. I thought all of the actors were great. I thought the music obviously was wonderful, and the direction really stylish. And it's got me more jazzed about found footage stuff. I mean, literally a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to my sister about some found footage stuff. They're much more into it than I am, and I was kind of lamenting, like, oh yeah, just, I think I have a hard time finding any that is for me. Like, I feel like, I think in the...
A lot of it's horror, too.
Yeah. And I don't even have any issue with that. I think, like, in the internet age, especially, we could do so much more with it. And I feel like we've been lacking. And this movie that uses 1940s fucking tech to do found footage is one of the most invigorating ones I've seen in recent times. So, yeah, highly recommend Lola from 2022.
Yeah, check this one out. And anyone who's got, like, distribution powers, like, make this one more accessible. Like, this one is really worth checking out.
Could you please, for Bartek's sake, make this more accessible? he needs it.
Hey, look, I've seen the film. I'm saying for the sakes of people that haven't seen this film, like, really check it out.
Really check it out.
Shout out to Mozilla Firefox for having a built-in VPN.
Can we shout out Firefox, please?
Everyone, can we have a polite applause for Mozilla Firefox?
Can we have a little polite applause for it? So, we both recommend the film. Now it's time to hear who is recommending the next film. Is it me again? Am I having a double dip?
Did you change the past to make it so that it's always you?
It's always me. No, it's not me. Usually the person who follows after me is the listening people.
Yeah, the entity of everyone in the world that isn't us.
Everyone in the world that isn't us. You can recommend things, and we add them to the list, and we get around to them.
Yeah.
And we have quite a list, and...
you could be, random guy on the street, or you can be Volodymyr Zelensky. You can recommend us a film.
Do you know who that is?
The guy whose name I said?
Yeah.
No, I have no idea.
No, I'm talking about the listening people.
Oh, right.
Do you know who that is? Bartek's just saying that, like, you should all know.
No one knows who that is.
No one knows.
He's in charge of something called Ukraine or something.
In charge of what?
Ukraine? I think that's how it's pronounced.
Okay. Oh, well. So.
I'm saying Ukraine.
I know. But it also sounds like you're saying a crime. And I'm like, what crime is he committing? Freedom. But no, we have been recommended many movies, and yes, you can recommend them. Hit us up on our social medias or email. We'll talk about that more so in a moment. But our good dear friend Will emailed us a suggestion.
Oh yes, Will.
Yes, our good friend
I know that guy.
It's Billy Bob himself.
Billy Bob. He doesn't want to say his last name anymore.
Yeah, Billy Bob.
Bob, Wet and Wild.
Wet and Wild Will himself.
Yeah. Do not read all descriptions and have his last name.
Has recommended a movie, and it is the film Perfect Days. That's right.
He's talked about this one a little
bit.
The
Wim Wenders movie from 2023. And that's actually good timing. So there you go, 2023. So everyone, make sure to give that a watch for yourself. And we shall be back here to talk about it. That has a returning figure for us. So we'll discuss who that returning actor is next time on the podcast. So make sure to tune in. But Bartek, where can people find us and how can people contact us?
Well, Mr. Zelensky, if you want to find us online, you can go to x.com, also known as Twitter. We have an account called Spit and Polish Presents. You can also go on to, I was blanking for a second, Facebook. We've got a page called Spit and Polish Presents.
Yes, please don't forget Facebook.
Please don't forget Facebook, Mr. Zelensky. We also have a YouTube channel where every episode is uploaded. You may be listening to us right now there. You can contact us in the comments on there. And if you want to contact us directly, just like our good friend Billy Bob, you can do it at spitandpolished@gmail.com. You'll need your own email address to email us, I think, so make sure you have that. Some good 2026 advice for how to send an email.
Send it from your big pond, please.
Yes. Yahoo.
Yahoo!
Hotmail.
Oh, I still have a Hotmail, so yeah.
I do too.
I do. You sound unsure of yourself.
Do I want the listening people to know that I have a Hotmail?
Yes, people, you want to think that Bartek uses some different style of email address. Bartek has already hinted that what browser he uses.
Oh, I hinted at it. It's very subtle. I didn't say to put polite applause for my browser of choice.
Well, yeah, you're real subtle about it. You may have to listen to the episode a few hundred times to really hear what he said, but if you play the episode backwards, you can hear what Bartek actually said it was.
Yes, and if you copy and paste every second letter of this description into Google, you'll be taken to a page that gives you a cipher that tells you what each word means. So when I say Microsoft Edge, I'm talking about the browser Microsoft Edge.
Okay. What's Mozilla Fox in Polish?
It's Mozilla Firefox, thank you very much.
Yeah, what's it in Polish?
Well, Mozilla, I think, is just a made-up word.
Oh.
I don't know that for sure. I'll have to use the internet to find out.
To be extra sure, he'll use Bing for that one.
Yeah, I don't know what form of fire to use, but the general word fire is ogień.
Oh, okay.
And fox, what is fox?
Yes, and what does it say?
I can't remember what fox is in Polish, but yeah, fire is ogień.
There you go. That is it.
Ogień fox.
What does the ogień fox say?
It's ogień.
Excuse me?
I think you'll find it's pronounced ogień.
It sounds more like an Asian word than a Polish word.
It's got that Polish last letter where it's not it's Yeah. Yeah. It sounds nerdy, but some letters in Polish are just like that.